Many years ago, I went night fishing with a friend of mine. In truth, on those trips, the actual fishing was kind of incidental. The main reason for going was to sit and chat uninterrupted for hours on end. And the second reason was the bacon sandwiches cooked in the open air the following morning. If we actually caught some fish, well, that was the icing on the cake. Back then, my fishing gear was in a constant state of readiness. Aside from bait, my rods, reels, line, hooks, were ready to go at a moment's notice. My tent had already been neatly packed away the last time I'd used it, and a quick check proved that the tent pegs were in the bag as well. I also gave the gas canister from my camping stove a quick shake and heard the familiar sound of contents. I should have listened a bit more closely. All night we spoke, munching on biscuits before grabbing a few hours' sleep on the bank. When we woke, our first thought was those bacon sandwiches. I dug out the stove and the gas canister while my mate got the food from the cool box together with the old frying pan we always used. I lit the stove, waited for the pan to heat, and then heard the gas sputter out. What I thought was a full or at least a partially full canister was, in fact, almost entirely empty. Our breakfast ultimately consisted of some bread, eaten in silence, as my friend debated throwing me into the lake. It's not the only time I've been caught out by a lack of power. Like many people these days, I tend to use an electronic boarding card whenever I'm flying. They work well, and I like to think I'm doing just a small part in preventing deforestation by going digital. However, I once did a full day's work in Sweden before returning to the airport, only to find that my phone had actually run out of charge. Thankfully, while I contemplated being trapped in Sweden for all eternity, not the worst outcome, a very nice lady pointed me towards the public charging station where I could grab sufficient juice to get me through passport control. Now, admittedly, neither of these were a genuine emergency situation, although I'm pretty sure my hungry fishing partner would contest that. But what would happen if you ran out of fuel on a demolition or construction site in an emergency situation? Or more specifically, what would happen if you ran out of electricity during a demolition or construction emergency? Now, I realize I'm talking in what ifs here. I'm deliberately choosing to consider the worst case scenario, but it's worthy of consideration. So let's take a couple of examples. Imagine there's an electric excavator that's been digging a trench, a deep trench for a pipeline or something similar. It's the end of the day, and the gauge says the machine is now running on the electric equivalent of fumes. Suddenly, there's a collapse that buries a man who had been standing perhaps a bit too close to the edge of the excavation. I did say this was a worst case scenario. The inclination, obviously, is to quickly excavate close to where the man was swallowed up, but you're out of juice. What do? You can't wait an hour for the machine to charge itself. One of your colleagues is potentially dying here. Your only real choice is to dig by hand, which will be painfully slow and potentially deadly. Let's take a slightly less extreme example. You're operating an electric demolition machine and it's getting close to lunchtime. Time for you to take on some fuel of your own while your machine gets a much needed mid shift top up of its own. But you spot a piece of the building looking unstable. It could fall at any moment. Its fall could cause a wider uncontrolled collapse. Just needs a few quick bites with a pulverizer to make it safe. But you're out of power. Let's get even more mundane. What if your electric machine runs out of juice by the site entrance, just as some materials are about to be delivered, or just as some waste is about to leave? Now, admittedly, any of these scenarios could just as easily play out on a diesel fuel machine. In addition, electric machines have highly advanced power management systems that constantly notify the operator of true power levels. And if an operator has run his or her machine power reserves so low that it might actually struggle to get itself back to the charging station, then I guess you'd have to question the common sense of the operator. My point, I guess, is about preparedness. It's about how easily we can take power for granted. We assume it'll always be there when we need it, whether that's for our breakfast, our boarding pass, or a life-saving dig. The industry is changing fast. We're moving from diesel to electric, from fossil to renewable, from fuel tanks to charging cables. We're rewriting the very definition of power on site. But for all the progress, and it is progress, we'd be wise not to lose sight of the fact that every new system introduces new vulnerabilities. A misplaced cable a tripped fuse, a charging station that's out of order or too far from where the action's happening. They're all small things, but small things have a nasty habit of becoming big problems when the pressure's on. And the irony here, of course, is electric machines are sold partly on their reliability. Fewer moving parts, less maintenance, cleaner operation. And all of that is true. But reliability isn't just about the machines, it's about the infrastructure that supports them, the cables, the batteries, the software updates, and the human habits that go with them. And those human habits don't always keep up with technology. We get comfortable. We assume that because something usually works, it always will, until the day that it doesn't. Now, I'm not saying electric machines are unsafe. Far from it. I'm a big fan. In most cases, they're safer, quieter, cleaner, and better suited to the urban environments where most of our industry now operates. But I am saying there are questions we've not yet asked. We've talked endlessly about charging times, battery life, and battery disposal. We've spoken to operators who worry that whisper quiet machines could become a hazard because co workers can't hear them coming. But I've yet to hear anyone ask what happens when you really desperately need power and you've got none. Maybe it's time we did ask.